Amazing moment. Waitress's black daughter discovers transformative way to calm billionaire's cry. Maya could hardly believe it. The frantic buzz of the diner shifted into a hush as Mr. Thompson stormed through the door, drowning in an aura of despair. His tailored suit clung to him like a protective shield, but his face betrayed the anguish of a man grappling with loss. She'd heard the whispers among the customers, speculating about the billionaire's turmoil after the death of his estranged mother. Uncomfortable, yet undeniably curious, Maya's heart swelled with empathy. What if her voice could reach him, comfort him? The waves of her growing courage mingled with the apprehension of either connecting with the man or cementing herself into her ordinary role as just a waitress's daughter. Flashes of her mother's harsh daily grind flickered through her mind. The long hours, the fragment of freedom that felt more like a weight. Maya's fingers twitched against her phone. Should she really approach him? The thought of making herself vulnerable was terrifying, yet beneath the fear, an ache for connection thrummed. Perhaps she could give him a glimpse of solace. It was a chance, a risk to take in a moment that felt nebulous and charged. Can music really heal? Balancing her resolve with impulse, she hit play. The soulful notes danced out, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Quiet but commanding, the melody flowed through the diner. Mr. Thompson's rigid shoulders softened, and his sharp gaze met hers. It was a fragile moment, as if the air around them had thickened with burgeoning possibilities. "Why are you playing that?" he asked, frowning as a hint of curiosity pierced the sorrowful veil. "Sometimes it helps," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "My grandmother used to listen whenever life got too heavy." It was strange to speak so openly to someone so wealthy, so distant. Yet, as he listened, Maya ventured further into her truth. "It's about family, isn't it? Even if you've lost the chance to say everything you needed to." A charged silence enveloped them, punctuated by Maya's internal doubts. Questions about their vastly different lives loomed in her mind. Was she overstepping? Did she have the right to speak about family bonds? His wealth isolated him, but wasn't she just a waitress's daughter whose life was inseparable from the small diner? "Sometimes I wonder if it was pride that kept us apart," he confessed, his voice unraveling into a hush. Each word laid bare the wounds of regret etched into his past. Fractured ties, betrayal, the heavy burdens they both shouldered felt too similar at that moment. Before they plunged deeper into shared heritages of loss, an unpredictable crash shattered that fragile connection. "Maya!" Her mother's voice cracked through the din of the diner, summoning her focus away from Mr. Thompson. Panic clawed at her insides as she looked toward the kitchen, where their small sanctuary of plates and warmth had just been disrupted. The longing and understanding she had begun to cultivate with the billionaire stood in stark contrast to the tumult of concern for her mother. In that instant, a rush of urgency engulfed her. Should she remain here and explore this unexpected bond, teetering on the brink of a profound connection that could transform her own life? Or would duty pull her back to the familiar routine of quiet desperation? A desperate thought clawed at her. Was it possible to heal another's pains while still grappling with her own family's struggles? The world around her blurred, and she teetered at the precipice of a life-altering choice, the weight of the moment charged with possibilities yet to be realized. Maya's heart raced. It was one heartbeat away from resolve, yet bound by unwavering duty. Maya's pulse thundered in her ears as she darted towards the kitchen, the door slamming shut behind her, as if cutting off the breathability of the moment she had just shared with Mr. Thompson. In the bustling chaos of the kitchen, the comforting scent of grease and familiarity greeted her, but the abruptness of reality clawed at her. Her mother's face was a mask of distress. "What happened?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the tension entwining her stomach. "It's the fryer," It overheated, and I couldn't get the lid off before—" Her mother paused, frustration lining her voice. "I just need your help." The urgency in her tone cracked through Maya's momentary triumph with Mr. Thompson. Reminding her of the weight of responsibility she carried within these walls, she plunged into action, pushing aside her inner turmoil. As she helped her mother manage the small crisis, a sense of purpose began to form. She focused on the task, her movements becoming more agile. The oil was certainly hot, but not so catastrophic if they worked together. "Mum, what's going on with you?" Maya asked gently as she wiped her hands on her apron, taking a moment to meet her mother's weary gaze. This wasn't just about the fryer. This was about the weight pressing down on them both. "Nothing is going on. Everything is fine," her mother replied too quickly, her eyes betraying her facade. Frustration bubbled within Maya. "It's not fine. You can't keep pretending." There was a spark within her, ignited by the connection she had felt with Mr. Thompson, a contrast to her mother's insistence on perpetual struggle. Maya's mother glanced away, the brief exchange of vulnerability slipping through her fingers. "You don't understand. I don't have the luxury of wallowing." "Maybe we need that luxury sometimes," Maya shot back. "You think I don't feel all of this too? But I learned something today. Talking can help." The silence hung thick between them, the weight of their shared burdens becoming palpable. In this moment, Maya grappled with the realization that she had the capacity not only to help herself, but perhaps to bring her mother, too, into a space of healing. Maya took a deep breath, acknowledging the stirrings of something greater within her, the seeds of empowerment planted during her brief encounter with Mr. Thompson had begun to take root. She was no longer just a waitress's daughter. She was a daughter attempting to transcend the repetitive cycle of burdens. As the fryer issue resolved itself, a sense of resolve knitted Maya's thoughts together. In the next few days, that fragile moment with Mr. Thompson lingered in her mind. The shared understanding of pain morphed into an internal strategy. What would it take for her to express this newfound realization of connection? Could she reach out to him again? That evening, as the diner closed and the last of the tables were cleared, she found herself grasping her phone. Dialing his number felt both exhilarating and frightening, the low hum of possibility vibrating through her. When the call connected, something in her steadiness clashed with self-doubt. "Maya!" his voice responded, the sound grounding her. She felt the familiar pull of empathy again, yet a fire sparked within her. The time had come for her to step into her strength, to confront both her fears and her misconceptions about herself. "I thought maybe we could talk more about the music," she proposed, feeling a mix of determination and vulnerability. "Yes," he replied, the warmth of his response enveloping her. With that, Maya felt herself drifting away from the limits imposed upon her, her mind clearer. She realized that this was just the beginning. The opportunity to embrace both her heritage and newfound strength loomed ahead of her. And there was no turning back. She hadn't just found her voice, she was ready to own it. What more could this connection unleash within her? Maya's heart raced with excitement as she hung up the phone, a quiet resolve beginning to take shape. The moment had come to face her own narrative, not just with Mr. Thompson, but with her mother, her past, and her future. She had one shot at making this monumental leap, and failure was no longer an option. As she stepped away from the diner's warm glow into the night, her thoughts tangled with the realization that every note played had the potential to orchestrate a life she had only begun to imagine. Where would this new path take her? The following days unraveled like a potent melody, each note resonating with Maya's burgeoning ambition. She spent her shifts waiting tables, yet her mind was palpably elsewhere, marinated in the rhythm of her recent conversations with Mr. Thompson. Their discussions about music were more than just exchanges. They were blueprints for her transformation. As she immersed herself in the routine of work, She began to integrate small moments of creativity. Customers who typically arrived with a scowl or impatience found themselves coaxed into laughter by her playful banter. Maya surprised herself. The confidence gleaned from her dialogue with Mr. Thompson served not just to empower her interactions with others, but also to embolden her spirit. Yet the contrast between her evolving self and the unyielding weight of her home life was jarring. Her mother's unrelenting struggle became a shadow that loomed over her new light. Sitting on her bed late at night, she gazed at the familiar walls adorned with photographs of their life together. She knew it was time to confront the deeper dynamics that rooted them both. "Mum, can we talk?" she asked one evening after they wrapped up the diner's closing rituals. The tension in her mother's shoulders was palpable, but it was now or never. "What about?" her mother replied, the edge in her tone skimming across Maya's resolve. "About you and us. I feel like we're both carrying too much alone." Maya's heart raced, but she pressed on. "I don't want to just shoulder burdens. I want us to share the weight." Her mother's guarded expression softened, but it was fleeting. "Maya, it's not that simple." "Why not?" Maya countered, a spark ignited in her chest. "Maybe it's time we stop ignoring what we feel. Maybe talking could truly help us." The silence that followed felt like a symphony hanging in the air, with tension ebbing and flowing between the two of them. When her mother finally spoke, the pain was tangible. "I'm afraid of being vulnerable, of failing you. I don't want you to be burdened with my struggles." The walls of resistance began to crumble as Maya connected the dots of their shared existence, a tapestry woven with unspoken fears and expectations. "Mom, I'm already carrying this weight. You taught me resilience, but now I want to learn from you about healing." A tear slipped down her mother's weathered cheek, and in that moment something profound shifted. Maya stepped into the role of daughter, not just as a caretaker, but as an equal, willing to face the truth. The realization bombarded her, crashing waves of clarity. She was learning how to listen deeply, reinvigorate their bond, and break her own cycles of silence. With each vulnerable revelation, Maya's own narrative grew stronger. A newfound sense of agency surged through her, revealing untapped layers of empathy. It was thrilling and terrifying. The crossroads between daughter and empowerment felt precarious yet liberating. The next day, buoyed by this introspection, she returned to the diner, determined to bridge her newfound creativity with her day-to-day tasks. Maybe there was something more than simple customer service at play. She could enrich their experiences within the diner, creating a space that flowed freely with connection. Her boss frowned as she strayed from the quotidian script, improvising small tunes that brightened the atmosphere. Patrons began to linger, engrossed in her spirit, and even her boss, though initially skeptical, found himself cracking a smile. But just as this ember of self-assertion ignited, the uncertainty around her relationship with Mr. Thompson surfaced anew. Would he embrace this budding growth in her, or find it awkward, misplaced? The thought sent a shiver of doubt through her. She needed clarity, not just from her mother or the diner, but from him as well. As she grasped her phone once more, a distinct urgency filled the air. The call she made wasn't just about music. It was about owning her identity and the connections she craved. Maya hesitated before dialing, realizing that this was the moment to confront the influences shaping her future. What would Mr. Thompson think of her now? Would he understand the transformation she was embarking on, or would it feel foreign to him? As the call connected, her heart raced with equal parts excitement and trepidation. "Maya," he greeted warmly, a tone of familiarity igniting hope. "Can we talk about more than just music?" she asked, feeling the stakes raise. "Yes, I'd love that," he replied, unaware of her internal revelry and hesitation. With that, Maya stood at the precipice of potential, ready to embrace both an evolving self and the unresolved questions that beckoned from her past. The stage was set, and now she would begin to confront the ties that lingered long after the music faded. Would this conversation push her further toward independence, or would she meet a wall of hesitation? Maya took a deep breath. The rush of words caught in her throat as nervous anticipation coursed through her. She had opened her heart to her mother, but this discussion with Mr. Thompson felt worlds apart. The gravity of the moment nudged her into a realm teetering between exhilaration and trepidation. "Maya," he encouraged, his tone inviting her to draw deeper. "What's on your mind?" Her fingers drummed against the table, betraying the confidence she wished to exude. "I've been thinking a lot about what we talked about the other night, about finding my voice and what that means for me." "Good," Mr. Thompson said. "It's essential to articulate your journey, your intentions. Tell me what your voice sounds like now." The inquiry was like a spotlight, demanding her to articulate the transformation that was taking place within. For so long, she felt silenced by the expectations of those around her, her mother's struggles, her boss's rules, even her own self-doubt. Now, in this shared space with Mr. Thompson, there was an invitation to shed that burden. "Sometimes it feels like I'm juggling who I am with who others expect me to be," she confessed, her voice faltering. "But lately, I'm finding freedom in creativity, in expressing joy amidst the chaos." "I can hear it," he replied, almost whispering, as if the gravity of her words needed reverence. "That joy is powerful. It's uniquely yours." Maya felt her heart swell, buoyed by his genuine recognition of her evolution. Encouraged, she continued, "I want to create experiences for people, like to transform mundane mornings at the diner into something special. Just little things. Spontaneous songs or jokes that make them feel, alive." "Why not aim higher?" Mr. Thompson urged. "Imagine cultivating that energy not just in the diner, but beyond its walls. What impact could that have? You could inspire people." Maya sat back, the possibilities unfurling like constellations in her mind. It was more than a fanciful idea. It was a path toward a potential she had barely scratched the surface of. "What if," she started, realization striking her with electric fervor, "what if I could host events, small gatherings to highlight local talent, to share stories and connect through music? I mean, it's a start, right?" An electrifying current buzzed between them. "Absolutely, that's the spirit," he replied. "You just need to channel your vision and believe in it. Your emotions are what make your voice distinct. Use them to inform your decisions." Her heartbeat quickened, each pulse enveloped in a whirlwind of ambition, but a shadow of self-doubt loitered at the edge of her excitement. "I'm worried I'll fail," she admitted, the vulnerability rising again. "What if it doesn't resonate, or people laugh instead of cheer?" "Then you learn. It's about the process, not perfection," he reminded her. "What's important is your willingness to grow through it. As long as you're authentic, that's what matters." In the confines of his encouragement, a flicker of her old fears began to fade. An inner voice whispered that growth often resided in the discomfort of the unknown. "Can we work on this together?" she blurted, struck by the urgency of her desire. "I'd love to learn from your experience, see how I can elevate this vision." His smile illuminated the room. "Of course. I would be honored to be part of this journey with you. Let's plan, outline, and figure out how to turn your audacity into a movement." Maya's spirits soared. She felt the flickering flame of her ambition transform into a resolute fire. If she could face her fears and take this leap, perhaps she would unravel yet another layer of herself. Then suddenly, a wave of anxiety rolled in. The realization that this venture could expose her vulnerabilities on a broader stage. "Mr. Thompson, what if I expose too much of myself?" she prompted, the unease reclaiming her composure. What if I end up laying bare my insecurities? Then you embrace them, he said fearlessly. That's where true connection lives. Sometimes vulnerability draws people closer than polished success ever could. Maya's resolve hardened. Perhaps the journey to her authentic voice was laden with uncertainty, but it was also threaded with potential. A mosaic of imperfections that could lead to new relationships, opportunities, and a deeper understanding of herself. Okay, she breathed deeply, embracing her newfound perspective. Let's do this. As they outlined the first steps, the air buzzed with excitement and possibility. Yet a lingering question pushed against Maya's heart. Was she ready to expose her insecurities in a landscape filled with critics? Maya, Mr. Thompson said suddenly, snapping her attention back, when will we take the first step? The urgency of the question plunged her into contemplation, leaving her to grapple with the imminent leap into the unknown. Tomorrow would hold the answer. Would she leap, or would fear tether her to the ground? Underneath the weight of uncertainty, Maya's mind raced through a myriad of possibilities. The sun filtered through the diner's windows, casting gentle rays over the tables, but she felt a storm brewing within. Tomorrow's first step loomed ahead, like an unsolved puzzle waiting for its missing piece. Sitting across from Mr. Thompson, she realized that this wasn't just a professional query, it was personal. What would it mean to share her vulnerabilities? Each wave of doubt connected back to her childhood, when she had learned to keep her dreams silent and self-doubt loud. Let's brainstorm methods to connect with people, Mr. Thompson encouraged, breaking her reverie and redirecting her focus. He brought a notepad closer, ready for her ideas. The act of sharing her thoughts felt monumental. I suppose I could use social media, she blurted, her voice wavering as she considered the implications. Like, start with short videos that showcase what I want to do in the diner. Maybe clip moments of joy from customers. Elevate those experiences. Excellent idea. You could document your journey, he replied, scribbling notes. Her pulse quickened at the prospect of putting herself out there, both thrilling yet daunting. Maya nodded, her mind shuffling through the logistics. But then it's not just about the diner, it's about me. What if they don't like what they see? That's part of the risk, he stated simply, his eyes piercing yet somehow comforting. Embrace whatever comes your way. The best stories often come from a place of authenticity. His words resonated like a mantra, gradually shifting her perspective. She could feel a subtle shift within her, an awareness that her insecurity could be a catalyst for her growth rather than a hindrance. Next, he encouraged, let's consider how to fill these gatherings with life. Local musicians, perhaps, poets. You could be the bridge connecting them to an audience. Maya's heart raced. Yes, I know a couple of singers who play at the bars nearby. The excitement trickled into her voice. I could invite them to share their stories and music. That's it! Mr. Thompson's enthusiasm ignited something deep within her. People crave connection. You have the ability to share not just joy, but culture, experiences and narratives they can relate to. Shifting in her seat, Maya's thoughts collided with a deeper realization. There was an undeniable power in narrative, weaving together voices, including her own. The challenges of her childhood weren't just barriers, they could serve as her unique insight into what connection really meant. She felt compelled to reflect. What if her journey could reveal not just her vulnerabilities, but also her resilience? What if I talked about my struggles openly in these gatherings? She wondered aloud, tasting the words with a mix of apprehension and daring. That could be the very thing that resonates with others, he replied, eyes gleaming with understanding. Creating a safe space where others feel seen. When you share authentic experiences, you empower others to do the same. Maya sensed a cascade of possibility. Perhaps this venture didn't solely revolve around her success. It was about fostering a community where vulnerability could nurture strength. But what if I misstep or expose too much? What if they choose to judge instead of connect? She couldn't help but question, a knot forming in her stomach. Judgment is part of the human experience, he admitted, with an easygoing shrug. But building something meaningful always comes with risk. The trick is to navigate those waters honestly and surround yourself with people who uplift you. She knew he was right, yet the thought of facing criticism still sent shivers down her spine. Still, within that fear, a flicker of courage sparked. Reflecting on the very day she had reserved her laughter in the diner, masking her true self in the shadow of judgment, she recognized that this was about more than herself. It was about a greater connection. "All right," she conceded, determination seeping into her words. "Let's tackle this together. I'll draft a schedule for these gatherings, reach out to the artists I have in mind, and write down my own story." As Mr. Thompson compiled their ideas, a sense of urgency fueled her. Did she have enough grit to share her stumbling blocks? She felt ignited with ambition, yet the shadows of self-doubt still loomed large. "Maya," he broke through her tangled thoughts, "let's set a date for the first gathering. When can we launch this?" An inexplicable excitement tinted her cheeks pink, and she realized a decision was needed. But before committing, she hesitated, a shiver of anxiety creeping back into her mind. What if I crumble when the time comes? What if I cannot hold my ground under the weight of their eyes? In that moment of hesitation, the first glimmer of a choice crystallized: take a leap or pull back into safety. The question hung in the air, thick with possibility, leading her to an inevitable crossroads. "Maya," he prodded gently but firmly, "it's time to rise. Can you feel it?" Her heart raced, embodying all the tumultuous thoughts yet ready to break free. One final look into the unknown sent her spiraling, encapsulating both the fear and thrill of impending transformation. How would she respond? Could she confront the critics and her inner judge? The potential loomed vast, the moment awaited, but could she silence her fears long enough to jump? The morning sun cast a bright hue over the diner as Maya prepared for the day. She felt a surge of determination, tempered with a gnawing anxiety that shadowed the vibrancy of her newfound resolve. This was it. This was the day she would take the plunge into the unknown. The mere thought of welcoming the local artists and sharing her own story sent tremors of excitement through her veins, but it was tightly bound with fear. As she stood behind the counter, she meticulously arranged the fresh flowers her grandmother had given her, an act imbued with symbolism. Each bloom represented another layer of her journey, reflecting beauty that could emerge from struggle. She recalled a line from Mr. Thompson: "True connection grows from authenticity." Yet, the weight of sharing her vulnerabilities still loomed over her like a storm cloud. Maya moved through the familiar motions of her job, battling her racing thoughts. Each customer, each interaction felt amplified today. She fixed her gaze on the bustling diner, the laughter and chatter enveloping her like a comforting blanket. With a deep breath, she embraced her purpose. Today was about creating connection. "Hey, Maya, ready for your big day?" Lily, her closest friend, called out from the sink, wiping her hands on a towel, a radiant smile plastered across her face. "I think so, at least I hope so," Maya replied, her voice shaky but filled with honesty. Lily stepped closer, concern flickering across her features. "You know everyone loves you, right? Whatever happens, we're all here to support you." Maya's gaze fell to her hands, the sweat from her palms betraying her confidence. "Yeah, but it feels different. It's not just serving food or making small talk. It's about sharing my journey." "What if it isn't enough?" "Then it's not enough," Lily said softly. "But at least you'll be true to yourself. That's what matters." Those words sank in, nestled beside the flickering flame of ambition that had ignited within her since the meeting with Mr. Thompson. She had always played it safe, allowing fears to dictate her choices. What if this was the moment of transformation? a quest not only for the diner but for herself. Throughout the day, customers filled the seats, laughter and connection weaving their way around the growing anxiety in her chest. Notes of the musician she had contacted danced in her mind. Each confirmation felt like a lifeline, a reminder that she was not alone in this journey. When the last customer left, she stood in the stillness of the diner, heart racing as she glanced at the clock. Was she truly ready? She mentally scrolled through her list of what she needed to accomplish, finalize the seating arrangement, set the microphone, and most importantly, find her voice. Maya took a deep breath and stepped into the back, where the diner's quiet felt like an echo of her own thoughts. There, the reflection in the stainless steel of the fridge reminded her of another truth she had been neglecting, that she was the author of her own story. She grabbed a piece of paper, the edges crumpled from her anxious grip. With a deep breath, she began to write. Words flowed like water from a broken dam, detailing her struggles growing up, the joys of laughter stolen behind closed doors, and the dreams that often felt too vivid to grasp. Yet as she wrote, a reminder surfaced. This wasn't merely about her. It had to convey the collective experiences of others like her. Would sharing her struggles truly resonate? Or would the weight of judgment be too heavy? Emerging from the back, she re-entered the bustling floor, the din of the diner completely contrasting her contemplative moment. The door swung open and there stood Mr. Thompson, a wide grin plastered across his face. "Ready, Maya?" he asked, eyes sparkling with encouragement. Maya's heart raced, uncertainty flaring within, but accompanied by flickers of boldness. "I think so," she responded, her voice steadier than she felt. With the crowd soon arriving for the evening gathering, anticipation thrummed in the air around them. She had no way of knowing how it would unfold. Each moment felt charged, her vulnerability ready to either connect or crumble under scrutiny. What happened next would undoubtedly shape not just her diner, but the very essence of who she dared to be. But in that transient space of uncertainty, she found her footing, whispering to herself, "This is my moment." Just then, a nervous realization hit her. Was the passion igniting inside strong enough to fend off the judgment of others? Or would the morning's bravery evaporate as soon as she took the stage? Time would soon reveal everything, and another question unfurled in her mind. Would she be able to ground herself despite the weight of expectation? Maya stood at the edge of the diner, feeling the weight of the atmosphere pressing into her. The hum of chatter grew, mixing with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods, while the sun sank lower, bathing the space in golden light. She glanced toward the door, as one by one the artists she had invited walked in, each contributing their unique energy, their stories waiting to be shared. The tension in her chest tightened further. She could almost hear the echo of her own thoughts. What if they found her story too ordinary? What if sharing it sent them running for the door? Yet beneath the anxiety, a golden thread of bravery began to weave through her consciousness. This was not merely a performance, it was an opportunity to carve out a space for authenticity. As she set the microphone on the small stage at the front of the diner, she noticed Lily wiping down tables with an air of confidence, effortlessly striking a conversation with the arrivals. Maya felt a twinge of envy. Lily was the person who thrived on social energy, and here was Maya drowning in self-doubt. But it was this very feeling that ignited her resolve. She had hidden for too long. With a sharp inhale, she stepped to the kitchen. There, the familiar clattering of pans and soft chatter from the cooks wrapped around her like a shield. She clenched her fists, attempting to channel her inner strength as she recalled the moments that defined her. Each memory was etched with both joy and pain, a tapestry of experiences she had avoided confronting until now. "Are you all right?" a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Mr. Thompson, peering through the door with concern woven through his expression. Maya nodded, though a knot formed in her stomach. "I'm just overthinking," he offered, stepping inside. His warm presence calmed the storm inside her. "Trust me, we've all been there. This is about connection. Your truth holds power." His words struck a chord. What if there was strength in her vulnerability? What if every moment of struggle she'd endured would resonate with someone else? Maya took a breath that felt thicker than the coffee brewing nearby, and she started to unwind the fear wrapped tightly around her heart. As the evening unfolded, artists took turns sharing their stories, laughter mingling with reflective sighs. Every tale added fuel to the burgeoning flame inside her, illuminating the parts of her that had for so long remained in shadow. Maya found herself leaning closer to the crowd, her heart opening in tandem with their narratives. Then it was her turn. The moment felt surreal, her body heavy with anticipation, yet buoyed by the enchantment of shared wisdom in the air. She stepped onto the wooden stage, eyes cast down to the microphone that seemed to pulse with energy. The din quieted, as if the diner itself held its breath, waiting for her voice. "Hi everyone," she began. Her voice trembled slightly, but she pushed on. "Today, I want to talk about those invisible scars we carry, the moments that make us question our worth." As she spoke, her nerves began to dissolve, each word unveiling layers she had long concealed. The audience was rapt, their expressions reflecting empathy and understanding, a mirror to her own journey. Just as she began to delve into a particularly poignant moment, her childhood dreams clouded with doubts, a voice interrupted. "What do you know about real struggle?" The taunt sliced through the camaraderie like a knife, leaving silence in its wake. Maya's heart sank as she traced the source of the challenge, a newcomer, arms crossed defiantly, with an air of privilege that felt suffocating. Doubt flickered back to life, threatening to suffocate her burgeoning courage. Gritting her teeth, she refused to back down. Experience isn't measured by societal norms. Everyone has a story worth telling. Mine may not appear striking, but it's mine, just as yours is yours. Though she spoke with conviction, a familiar anxiety threatened to grip her. Each eye in the room was now on her, scrutinizing, judging. Would her newfound strength hold? But then she noticed small gestures of support from the audience, nods, smiles, even tears glistening in the corners of eyes, lit by understanding. The warmth of their acceptance reassured her, igniting the fire that had been quelling beneath layers of doubt. As she continued, she transformed vulnerability into strength, inviting others to reflect, to confront their own shadows. This was more than a performance, it was a catalyst for connection, and the energy shifted. In that luminous moment of realization, she understood clarity. True growth arises from facing the raw, unvarnished parts of oneself. That was the essence of her authenticity. Yet as she stepped down from the stage, exhilaration mixed with fear, stirring shadows of doubt within her. She had faced the challenge, but what would happen after this moment? As she felt the weight of the room shift, a new question emerged. How would she navigate the complexities of being seen and understood in a world that often withheld both? Maya paused, her breath quaking, ready to confront her next struggle. Maya stepped off the stage, the adrenaline coursing through her veins like wildfire. The din of chatter returned, but it felt different now, more vibrant, as if the audience had breathed life into her words. She caught sight of Mr. Thompson smiling at her from across the room, a gentle reminder that she was not alone in this journey. But the voice that had pierced her moment of courage lingered, wrapped around her thoughts like an unwelcome vine. "What do you know about real struggle?" A question that echoed in her mind, challenging the very foundation of her newfound confidence. Did her stories hold weight when compared to others? As she stood in the corner, her hands trembling slightly, she could feel the gaze of the newcomer still fixated on her. She shivered, not from fear, but from the realization that her vulnerability had become an open invitation for scrutiny. It was a pivotal moment, one that demanded a response. She had shared her truth. Now it was imperative to carve boundaries around it. Maya took a deep breath, channeling her anxiety into a determination unlike any she had felt before. This encounter would not define her. She turned her focus to the diners and artists around her, each wrapped in their own worlds, their own stories. How many of them faced similar judgments? With that thought, her heart swelled with a sense of collective resilience. With a resolve forged in the crucible of vulnerability, she moved through the diner, engaging with artists whose tales had resonated with her. As they shared their thoughts on her performance, she felt the embers of their supportive energy ignite her spirit. Each compliment, each nod of understanding chipped away at the newcomer's voice that lingered in her mind. "Your story was so relatable," said a painter with paint splattered on her apron. "It's amazing how you framed your experiences. It makes me want to share mine." The painter's sincerity wrapped around Maya like a warm cloak, rekindling her courage, allowing her to shed the doubts that began to creep back. But as the night rolled on, the echo of the earlier comment gnawed at her. The night would not end on a note of frustration. Rather, she resolved to explore the depths of her feelings further. She needed to confront this manifestation of her doubt head-on. Maya leaned against the counter in the kitchen, away from the crowd's jubilant chatter. She closed her eyes, recalling her journey. There were moments steeped in heartache, times when she had felt invisible, but there were also triumphant moments. The time she skipped down the street with a school project in hand, the laughter shared with friends, the breakthroughs that led to this very moment. The struggle had shaped her, but it did not solely define her. A decision crystallized within her. The next day, she would write about her experience, aiming to delve deeper into her feelings. She would unveil not just her triumphs, but also the darker complexities, the fears, the insecurities, the feelings of inadequacy. This journey towards self-understanding was a vital chapter, and the struggle was just as significant as the strength. Beneath the flickering diner lights, inspiration surged anew. Writing would be her weapon against doubt. It would serve as both confession and emancipation. Letting the words flow onto the page, she would turn her pain into art, a tool for healing that could extend beyond her. But just as she embraced this resolve, a thought crept in. What if her attempt to confront her fears lacked the intensity she sought? What if, in her effort to write it all down, she stumbled upon something even deeper, a secret she had long buried? The anticipation tumbled within her like a storm. Maya positioned herself in front of a blank notebook, her pen poised, ready to embark on this exploration. But as she wrote the first line, hesitation blossomed again. What would surface as she peeled back the layers? With the weight of both excitement and fear pressing against her chest, she took another deep breath. This challenge was now frontal, demanding her attention. There was no backing down. She was ready to face whatever lay beneath the surface, to confront the truth of her spirit. And as the ink began to flow, she whispered into the quiet. The time had come to face something far deeper than just an audience's gaze. As Maya scribbled furiously, the ink transforming her inner turmoil into tangible lines, each word felt like an unearthing. The act of writing quickly became an excavation of sorts, peeling back layers she'd painstakingly constructed over the years. She was no longer just recounting stories. She was diving into her narratives, illuminating aspects of herself she had left unexplored. The question that haunted her, "What do you know about real struggle?" evolved into introspection. Were her experiences less valid because they did not mirror others' hardships? The realization hit her like an electric surge. Struggle was not synonymous with suffering. It was unique to each individual. The very essence of her voice was shaped by her personal encounters. She added another line to her manuscript, her pen gliding across the page, liberating thoughts that had been shackled for too long. Yet still, beneath the surface, the dread of inadequacy simmered. What if she laid bare her vulnerabilities and found that they were dismissed? Would she face another wave of criticism like the newcomers? A shiver ran down her spine, but she pushed through, refocusing her energy on her pen and the blank pages that awaited her. In the stillness of the diner, the clatter of dishes in the kitchen faded away, replaced by the rhythm of her thoughts. The more she wrote, the more she confronted the darker elements of her journey. Self-doubt, the incessant comparison to others, and the haunting feeling of not measuring up. Each confession on the page illuminated a mirror looking deep into her soul, revealing parts of herself that longed for acknowledgement. "I felt invisible," she penned, "often overshadowed by those with louder voices or more established paths. But perhaps visibility doesn't stem from grand gestures. Perhaps it begins with the quiet, resolute declaration that I exist." Maya paused, her reflection sparking a newfound resolve. This was not just writing, it was a powerful act of validation. In her exploration, she was uncovering means to fortify her identity. This realization widened the horizon of her thoughts, expanding into a potential legacy of her own. As she delved deeper, threads of other memories began weaving into her narrative, connections with family, the strength of her mother's spirit, and the shared laughter during late-night talks. These reflections fortified her. They were reminders of what had shaped her resilience thus far. Her pen danced with vitality, and in that rhythm she discovered a hidden strength within, a self that was ready to confront any voice of doubt that dared to question her worth. But as the night wore on, and she began to link together her past with her present, an unsettling question emerged from the depths of her consciousness. What if her revelations painted a target on her back? The idea of exposing her most intimate struggles to the outside world transformed from a fear into a palpable reality. It was a dilemma that tugged at her deeply. Was she prepared to take on the weight of those words in the public realm? With the blank pages blanketing her commitments, she contemplated her next move. Would she truly share her story, bearing all, opening the doors for potential ridicule? Or was there a more controlled method to navigate through her vulnerabilities, shielding herself while maintaining authenticity? In a swirl of uncertainty, the clock struck midnight, and the diner started to quiet down. The laughter and chatter dulled into echoes. Maya took a breath, the weight of possibility settling heavily in her chest. Each decision she faced could pivot her trajectory, shaping not just her art, but her identity itself. She set down her pen for a moment, considering the way forward. With every word, she realized she was becoming the author of her narrative, and that power was both exhilarating and intimidating. Her journey had yet to fully unfold, and with a voice ready to bravely confront the shadows, she would take control not just over her story, but the response it would evoke. And so, as she looked at the bold lines before her, a spark ignited in her mind. Was it possible that embracing her struggles could also empower others? The idea tantalized her, pulling her toward the edge of another revelation. Maya lifted her pen once more, prepared to write the next chapter. A chapter not just of her pain, but of connection, impact, and the delicate dance of vulnerability and strength. What if, through her truth, she could create a dialogue that resonated on even deeper levels? What if her story could inspire others to face their own shadows? With these questions opening new doors in her mind, she felt fueled by purpose, ready to dive deeper into the words that would define her. Maya stood at the forefront of her diner, the echoes of last night's gathering still lingering in the air as she surveyed the transformed space. The walls felt charged, infused with stories shared and revelations made. She had faced the vulnerability of sharing her truth, each moment solidifying her place as an empowered individual. It was more than just a step. It was a leap into her own narrative. In the days following her triumph on stage, Maya had encountered a whirlwind of emotions. Each conversation buzzed with excitement and curiosity. Customers sharing how her story resonated with them, how her vulnerability had touched a nerve. The admission that she had struggled and understood their pain birthed connections that deepened the essence of her diner, transforming it from merely a place of food into a sanctuary of shared experiences. With each passing shift at work, she fortified her confidence, embracing her role as more than just a waitress. She became a catalyst for dialogue, sparking conversations around vulnerability, connection, and resilience. Customers lingered longer, immersed in conversations that fed not just their appetites, but their souls. Recognizing the power her story held within the community, Maya formulated a plan. She proposed a series of themed nights at the diner, aimed at spotlighting the stories of others, opening the floor for local talent and narratives. She would highlight various voices through poetry readings, music, and storytelling sessions. It wasn't merely about performance. It was about shared healing, weaving the fabric of their lives into a communal tapestry. Her mother's initial worry about Maya's ambitions began to shift into cautious pride, as she watched her daughter elevate not only the diner's vibrancy but also their bond. No longer just managing burdens in silence, they spoke openly, exploring their fears and dreams together, forging a pathway toward mutual understanding. "Maya," her mother whispered one evening as they cleaned up after a full house, "I see how this brings you joy, how you're beginning to impact others." "I finally understand, Mom," Maya replied, gratitude lacing her voice. "It's not just about me anymore, it's about us, like you said, sharing the weight." As the first of the themed nights approached, anticipation buzzed within her. She was anxious yet exhilarated, recognizing that she had come full circle. The enormity of standing before an audience grew more tangible each day. Yet she was not merely stepping into the spotlight, she was creating a space for others to shine. On the night of the first event, the diner buzzed with warmth. Luminaries adorned the walls, the enticing aroma of home-cooked meals intertwined with the bustling anticipation of eager guests. The small stage stood waiting, her heart thrumming with excitement and fear. She was no longer just a daughter or an employee. She had cultivated her identity into that of a leader. As locals gathered, sharing their intricate stories, her voice began weaving through the room. Maya welcomed everyone, clear-eyed and resolute, presenting the theme of the night, history of voices. She encouraged reluctant individuals, drawing them out of their shells, convincing them to share their journeys alongside her. When she stepped down from the stage later that night, a profound sense of achievement washed over her. She had successfully facilitated a space that resonated with the community, and the collective energy surged like a symphony, echoing through her very being. The applause that followed, the laughter and even tears exchanged, reflected more than mere appreciation. It represented understanding, connection, and a heartfelt embrace of each other's journeys. She had not only anchored herself in her new role, but had also carved a path so others could find theirs. The pride simmering within her was no longer just about personal validation. It radiated outward, entwining with the stories of all those present. Within weeks, the themed nights evolved, gaining momentum and establishing a sense of camaraderie among the participants. Her dream of fostering a vibrant community echoed loudly, transforming her once ordinary diner into a celebrated hub. She was no longer just a waitress's daughter. Maya had become a respected contributor in her community, a connector of lives. Looking around, she knew that every note sung, every spoken word, and every shared silence had carved a profound narrative. She was part of something larger than herself, a beloved figure guiding others toward their own empowerment. The experiences she had navigated upon arriving here began cascading through her thoughts, the fears, the confrontation of self-doubt, and ultimately the courageous choice to narrate her life. Her transformation resonated throughout the diner with echoes of resilience that would carry on, even beyond the walls of her humble beginnings. With the final applause fading, she closed her eyes. In this moment, she was not just a participant in her journey. She was writing the very story of her life, one filled with relevancy and richness, marked by her authentic voice. This was her moment, the flowering of potential she never knew she possessed. Seizing that feeling, she began mapping the next steps for their future events, thinking about how to keep the spirit alive and sustain this community she had nurtured. Maya now stood firmly on her path, possessing not just confidence, but a purpose: to inspire, to connect, and to create spaces that foster healing through sharing. This was the moment that marked the true beginning of her journey, and she committed to see it through every way she could. Now you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these inspiring tales coming. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. It's time to share your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread this powerful message.